Hello, hello. We are live. Hello, friends. Hello, chat.
How's it going?
Hi. Welcome to BloqTalk. This is episode 8, I believe, with PeskyCashew and Proper D. If it is your first time here on the show, I'm ashleyriott. I am the host. I'm here with my co-host, Klouder. We're going to take just a little bit of time to introduce ourselves, let you know a little bit about us. So I'm ashleyriott. I play Beat Saber, but I'm also a content creator for Team Gravity, which is a VR competitive esports organization. We have a bunch of teams that compete in different VR titles, which is pretty pertinent to some of the stuff that we're going to be talking about. I'm joined with my co-host, Klouder.
Hello, I'm Klouder. I do a bunch of stuff for Beat Saber Running Group. I'm staff on the BSM Discord. I stream and I draw.
Awesome. And we are joined with PeskyCashew and Proper. So if you guys want to tell us a little bit about yourselves, introduce yourselves to the chat.
Yeah, I'm PeskyCashew. I just kind of float around a bunch of VR games at this point. I write for V-Respawn. Used to play Beat Saber kind of competitively. Now I'm more on the casual end. Still more try-hard than I should be.
And what did you peak at in Beat Saber? Because I think I said, like, top 100, but I didn't know, like, where you were.
I think I peaked at top 19. I think I got just under 20 once or twice.
So top 32. I wanted to say top 32 when I was posting about it, but I wasn't like completely sure, so I just said top 100. So Pesky, pretty high level Beat Saber player, but also a competitive VR player. Also Proper D. You want to introduce yourself?
Yes, hi, I'm Proper D. I also similarly float around VR. I like quite a large array of VR games. I was with Pesky at the last ESL for Space Junkies, and Beat Saber I love. I mean, I struggle competitively because there are just so many better people out there than me. I think I broke 500 recently, but I peaked at 67, I think, but that was ages ago. But yeah, looking forwards towards a bright competitive future with VR still.
Yeah, I was going to say, one of the things is that you're a pretty large Beat Saber streamer, so you do a lot of work with Liv, you stream in mixed reality, your streams are pretty poppin', a lot of people are always tuning in, so I thought that was kind of interesting. You're a pretty popular Beat Saber streamer, Pesky is a pretty high-level player, but I met both of these guys at the VR World Finals this year in Leicester. It was VR League Season 3, and they were both competing in Space Junkies. So I thought it would be kind of cool to talk to them about VR, Beat Saber, but also the competitive scene of VR esports, kind of what that means, what the difference is between the VR esports sphere in comparison to the traditional kind of esports, you know, with the CSGOs and things like that, kind of what the difference is between those two things. And then also, like, upcoming news, because there's a lot of really cool stuff that's about to be happening in the VR competitive sphere, and how, if you are interested in getting involved in stuff like that, like, how you can. So I thought it would just be kind of a cool topic to talk to you guys about. You guys are kind of perfect for it. And I thought chat would be interested in that as well. Also, if sound is weird, let me know, because everybody always says louder, and I don't know what they want louder. So feel free, chat, to let us know.
Sounds...
So I am
Sounds good.
pulling it. Cool. So you guys, where are you guys from? Because I know that you represented NA and EU respectively at the World Finals, so where are you both from?
I'm from Dallas.
And that is Pesky from Dallas, Texas. What about you, Proper? Where are you from?
And I'm currently in London, UK, but I suppose I'm originally from Singapore.
I have Pesky up as, or I have Proper as high as I can put him. Proper, can you turn yourself up at all? I think I...
Okay, I can try.
I told you they always want it louder. Like, it doesn't...
It's
never
as far
loud
as my
enough.
input can go, I'm afraid. Yeah, I'm as high as I can go, really.
We'll just have to be quiet. We'll have to listen to you carefully. I'll turn the music down too. Oops, I accidentally turned it up a little bit. And there's Axis. So Axis Mund is also a Space Junkies player for Team Gravity. So it depends on how you want to talk about professional. So when we talk about pro and Beat Saber, a lot of times people are talking about the top 32 on Score Saber. But there are also, we do have like, for example, Team Gravity does have a Beat Saber team. It consists of myself, but I'm more of the content creator side, Cooling Closet and Orange W2. So they are both kind of signed, I guess, with like an esports team. So we'll kind of talk about all that stuff a little bit later. But first, I just wanted to talk about how you guys first got into Beat Saber and then VR in general. So what got you into Beat Saber?
For me, what got me into Beat Saber was just kind of early demos I saw. It was one of the games that, like a lot of people, brought me into the VR space. And I ended up kind of incidentally getting more competitive in it when I went to an Archangel Hellfire tournament at TwitchCon and won a Vive playing Beat Saber. Kind of felt like oddly obligated to play some more if I won Vive playing it, which was kind of odd because when I went there, I found out afterwards that people like Orange W, other at the time pro players, I was, some nobody 4-digit rank player, just having a good time. And it just was incidentally that I had kind of a crappy VR rig, and the ones that they had at TwitchCon were having a bunch of issues. So I was used to playing with really bad frame stutter and lag, so I could make it through the song, and those people were just kind of like rage quitting the first day.
Yeah, what's funny is we were all there. Hammer split one of the Vives with one of the people that were staying in our house, Tetsu. And like Cheesy and Orange were all there. We were just talking about Orange is on Team Gravity. And we remember the first day somebody had won the Vive, and we didn't really know who that. We were trying to figure out who that person was because we didn't recognize the name from kind of like the beats. But that was Pesky. Pesky was the person that won the Vive on the first day, which is actually such a small world, right?
Yep. Kind of come full circle now.
And then Access Monday said hi to you guys. He's one of our Space Junkies for Team Gravity. Manilo and Access are the two guys. So they faced up against Danglers, which is PeskyCashew's team, and they got taken out by them on the first day of competition for Space Junkies at the finals. And they didn't get a chance to play against Leftovers, which is Proper D, who Proper D was playing for during the finals. But yeah, a very small world, like the VR world, which is kind of why I wanted to talk about this with you guys, because if you want to get involved in it, like, the opportunity is there. But I keep trying to like go ahead. But so what got you into competitive VR? Like, what made you make the jump from, hey, I'm just kind of enjoying this game, to, wow, I could really compete?
For me, it was kind of just same thing, kind of incidental. I had some friends that played a lot of Orbis VR with me, and we were in one of the more competitive guilds, and we kind of got bored because they just kind of ran out of content, and so we all hopped in Archangel Hellfire when it released, and they were running this series of tournaments, which is actually where I met Proper D, ironically. They had this series of 6 tournaments that would eventually take you to TwitchCon if you ended up coming back and beating the other winners of the other tournaments. And that kind of kicked off that whole chain reaction where I went to TwitchCon, like went to the TwitchCon floor and just kind of instantly won that Vive, started playing Beat Saber and met more people. And then that's kind of how I met Stumpy, my partner for Space Junkies, and it's just kind of it's all linked together.
What about you, Proper? Same deal? Was that kind of your first introduction to the competitive scene?
Yeah. I've just changed my mic, so let me know if it's blasting now.
It's a little loud,
I've just changed it to the right set.
Let's see.
Really sorry, yeah. So
is that better?
Okay. Just thought I would speak as quietly as possible before I broke your eardrums. Okay.
Let's see. We good? Good?
Yeah, all good?
Better?
All good.
I turned him down. Because I had him blasting on my end as well.
Apologies, I had it set to the wrong setting in true form. It says...
Okay, they say it's better.
Wouldn't be
much better.
Right, cool. Yeah, I was just thinking about Beat Saber. I mean, I quite avidly follow VR title releases, so I was watching that for some time before it was even released, just waiting to hit that buy button so I can get slicing. But I mean, yeah, it really looked like it's just such a simple concept, and the concept has been around for a while with a lot of rhythm games and stuff like that, and rhythm and music, and it just looked exciting, so I had to have it, and I loved it straight off the bat. I loved it. But the competitive scene, I mean, I just I love a lot of the shooter games as well as a lot of the pew games, so I just tried my hand at it, and turned out that I was okay, and so used to play Pavlov competitively. And now I'm currently trying my hand at Contractors VR, which with the championships this weekend, actually, which is partially why I can't actually partake in the Space Junkies tournament that's being held, unfortunately.
Which is also this Sunday. There's so much going on. It's nuts. So
exactly.
There are so many competitions. There's so much out there competitively. So when you say that you play Pavlov competitively, what does that mean? Somebody had asked a little bit earlier. What does pro means? But when you say competitively, what do you mean by that?
I guess, we were sort of waiting for the first organization to form, I guess, sort of the league, and VRML sort of popped up a while ago. And they were the first thing that sort of, started to get everybody organizing into teams and starting to play weekly.
And so when you say
then the
ML,
champions-
sorry, I'm just going to let people know. So that's the VR Master League. I'll link that to you guys. Something that you want to check out. So they do season competitions for different stuff. So go ahead.
Yeah, quite a few stuff as well. They tried Beat Saber, but that didn't go so well because they were only using the OST maps. And
Right,
people
yeah.
didn't really like that.
It's rough.
So-
There's a lot of special considerations involved in competitive Beat Saber.
I can imagine. Yeah. So yeah, I guess most of the shooter games are currently holding the world championships on VRML, at least. Anyway, I think Onward is, kind of Contractors is. I'm not sure. Pavlov, I think, is going on as well, but I've sort of moved away from that for now, just focusing my efforts on Contractors.
And then Final Assault as well, which is the RTS for VR. I tried it a little bit. I actually wanted to do the season, but I didn't realize it was like a game every single week. And I'm just like, I travel every other week, and like, there's just no way. Like, I have no time to do. I thought it was like, 2 days of competition and I could just take those days off, but it is not like that at all. And the finals are actually going on at the World Cyber Games for Final Assault right now in China. And one of my teammates from Team Gravity, Dervil, is actually participating in that. He's a lord of Final Assault. He's so good. I think he's won all of his matches so far. He's still in the winners brackets, so we are cheering for him.
It looks
to win.
amazing.
Yeah, it's actually so fun. It's so fun. I wish I was better. I wish I had time to play it. If either of you want to try it and like do some matches, I'd be so down. It's so much fun.
But I mean, Pesky, I imagine. Well, Pesky is. You were saying that you were really quite good at it, actually. Aren't you, Pesky? I'm rubbish at RTS games.
I mean, at this point, I just don't have the patience to play RTS games, so I just hop in every week and kind of pick a random character. But I've found a way to hold my own against the lower ranked guys. But the people at the top have put in 200-300 games and just know how to micromanage stuff so well at this point.
Yeah, they're nuts. And there's so much going. But it's super cool. I really wish I had like more time. I think that there's a little bit of balance issues as well, but I think they're working on that too.
Yeah, I think there's 2 of the classes don't have their like last unit yet, so there's some holes in your gameplay.
You just feel like not as well rounded. Yeah, definitely.
And to be honest, it's just so. Sorry to interrupt. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
It's just so good to see like real stakes being put up there as well, like big monies. It just shows that there's actually a future for sort of VR esports and stuff like that. It's very promising, and it's very fills you with a lot of it's very encouraging, basically.
Yeah, I was gonna say, do you guys see a future in it? Because I kind of look at it like the beginning of esports. Imagine the teams that are getting involved now. I was talking with Gravity about this a little bit. Well, he was talking about it in an interview, and I thought it was on point. But like, imagine if you could go back 15 years, 10 years, and be there at the start of Team Liquid or Team Fnatic. If you could put the money in then to get that stake in those teams, would you do it today, knowing what we know now about esports? And I think most people definitely would. And so I think that being kind of at the beginning of this for VR is, it's such an exciting place if you're participating in it, because we're really kind of at the start of what I think is going to be a really healthy future. What do you guys think about the future of VR?
Yeah, I completely agree with that. I mean, VR is kind of where games are trending. They're always going to have, I think, more popularity for desktop games for the foreseeable future, just because accessibility, development-wise, and for players, you can play on lower spec PCs. You don't have this stigma around it where you have to be a hardcore gamer to get a gamer rig and a headset, which is starting to go away with like the Oculus Quest and moving towards having competitions on more open platforms like that. But I mean, there's so many people trying to make VR esports happen that I can't imagine it's not going to take off.
Yeah, absolutely, totally agree. I mean, I was just amazed when I attended the ESL with you, like the amount of effort that was being put into that, and just the quality. You know, it's just that people really cared about it, and people really cared about what it looked like, and you know, the impression of which is really important. You know, what people see, the first off impressions of what VR esports are going to look like. And to be honest, I think it looks really good. The future is bright.
And to be at this point where like we're talking about VR esports as kind of this startup area, but if you take like VR League, I mean, they had a $250,000 prize pool, probably put $2 or $3 million into producing the entire season. I mean, it's already taking off. It's just mostly behind the scenes work right now, I think.
Yeah, definitely. ESL was, I was going to pull up some of the gameplay from that, but it was actually so incredible because there was just so many people that were working to make it what it was, and like getting to meet people from all over the world. Hi, Team Grav. There's Team Gravity, who is there. I was actually going to show them a little bit of ESL because we were going to talk a little bit about kind of when we say competitive esports, what does that mean for both of you guys? Kind of what has been the highlight of your esports career. So Pesky had mentioned earlier he was top 20 in Beat Saber, but what was the kind of accolades of what you've done competitively in VR?
I mean, starting back on just kind of highlight wise, I think just the first time going to TwitchCon. So I've told this story to a bunch of people that we had this super awkward little setup in the corner of a ballroom that like wasn't where we were supposed to be. It was a terrible setup, but just being there, competing for the first time, you know, putting on the headset, going into the VR space and playing for a relatively significant prize. I think it was like $1,000 plus all-inclusive TwitchCon passes. I think that was like the highlight, but I mean, I've also competed in Beat Saber. I was with Proper D and many others at the VR League finals. I've played a whole bunch of miscellaneous games, Tavern of Magic, looking at getting into Battle Wake now that that's out, or now that's in beta at least. Definitely going to see if I can pick that one up if anything competitive happens. So it should be a good time. Axis doesn't look happy about this match selection.
Yeah, I was just reading that too.
Yeah, you guys watching it, yeah. Haxis is like, oh no, not this one. So they know exactly what I'm pulling up. This is a...
You're going to roast your own Grav members.
Listen, this is what happened. So this is a game between Danglers, which is Pesky, and Stumpy. You guys hear him talking about that, about Stumpy a little bit. His partner for Space Junkies. This is at the Season 3 finals. This is one of their games. I think it was game 1, wasn't it?
Yeah, it looks like 0-0, so this was the first game.
I don't know if you guys will be able to hear it. Yeah, you can.
We spoke about Danglers earlier, taking their time, pausing and kind of resetting. It looks like Team Gravity were able to do just that, and they're bringing the frags a little bit closer, but we're down to 45 seconds, Sleepy.
Yeah, 45 seconds. Things are getting close, but it does look like Team Gravity will find some of the frags. They're going to bring it up to 1, then Stumpy will open things back up. We'll be at a 2 split now. 37 seconds. Team Gravity should be playing a bit aggressive here because the Danglers can actually play against the spawn timer a bit now, kill that clock out, and actually hurt and actually put themselves at that advantage using the timer.
We're getting back down to 30 seconds, 20 seconds in the round. It looked like Manello had full armor. I expect to see him going in very aggressive here, trying to get some quick frags and get the lead on his opponents here. Axis Monday with a quick frag on PeskyCashew. Let's see if they'll be able to close this out and tie it up.
Absolutely.
10 seconds left, Sleepy.
Stumpy Nub should just run for his life at this point. Just hold that 1-point kill because he's got.
That was a great comeback, honestly.
If they find him, this could be a tie.
Yep.
And they do find him. It's 12-12 when the timer goes out. We have a sudden death in our very first game.
I can't watch, so as you guys can imagine. So they thought that, I think they thought the game was ending, right?
Yeah, they forgot that sudden death was a thing.
A thing, yeah. They like, we were all like, ah. So
look for the frags and get some beautiful trades on their side.
Absolutely right. We talked about
and so regarding the spectator client, since someone mentioned it, this actually isn't the default spectator view. We talked to the devs about this. This is just the one that ESL chose to use. There's another spectator client they have that has like split screen views and it like smooth transitions between players instead of doing this jumpy like fly through that causes a lot of jump arounds when people don't know how to operate the camera. So hopefully if it comes back for another season, we'll see that.
Do they also have a sort of an overview option, sort of like what they do on Onwards?
Yes, so they also have a map viewing option where you can just do free cam, fly around. It'll show people, show the health bar, show stats. So I'd like to see some more. I think that's definitely the better viewpoint.
Yeah, I hope they go for
yeah.
that as well. And you guys may not know, Mullerin is a caster for Echo Combat. I think it's Echo Combat. So lots of people in the community are around today. Access Mund is like, I cannot watch. That was close. That was so Danglers ended up winning that one in sudden death after we came back like 8-12. So that's one of the games that was at the finals. Go ahead. Oh, I thought you were gonna say something. I heard like yeah.
Oh, sorry. No, no worries. No.
So yeah, all of the Echoes, Echo Arena and Echo Combat as well. I've seen a lot of the matches you have casted. I'm gonna use it as fuel for next season. That's a really good way to look at it, actually. I was so sad. We kind of also were kind of testing the equipment with that first game for both Space Junkies and Echo. We were like the first match, and we were just kind of testing stuff out. So yeah, what was that like? What was the VR finals like for both of you?
I mean, it was kind of a completely different experience for me, because I went in with the perspective of, my only other LAN event was at Archangel in this little kind of musky ballroom in the corner of one of the TwitchCon venues that like had 10 people watching us. It was like this really weird little LAN event. And so going to VR League Files, like, oh yeah, you're ready for your interviews, for your custom jerseys, for your on-stage pre-game interview, your post-game interview, getting set up on the stage, like everyone managing all your stuff. It was crazy how much production work went into that compared to what I kind of was envisioning. It was great to be there.
What about you, Proper? What was
Yeah, for me it was first time in my life. Like I'd never attended anything like that before, and it was just absolutely amazing. It just felt like such a privilege, and just arriving there and just meeting everybody, meeting you, meeting Pesky. It's really what makes it feel so like such a big world to be a part of. Like, instead of just playing VR just in my living room, I'm suddenly sort of part of this like much larger community, and it just makes me feel, how do I say it? I just sort of identify with the grandness of it all, if that makes any sense.
It's like you were with your tribe, right? For me, it was, I remember like sitting there and hearing somebody say something about Squeaksy's mapper client. And because I don't really play Echo, right? And so they were talking about Echo nonstop, and all I heard was a little bit of Beat Saber from like my right ear, and I was like, who is that? And it was Pesky. And I had actually heard of Pesky before, and I was like, hi, I'm Ashley Riott. And finally somebody was like, oh, I know, like I've seen your streams. And I was like, oh God, because in the, in the arena world, or in the Echo world, like, I don't know anybody, I don't know any of that community. I mean, I do now after being there, but it's so different, and it's so crazy how big it actually is, but how it also, there's like a lot of crossover between the different communities at the same time. So what is happening? What is coming up that you guys are excited about? What are you participating in, tournament-wise, competition-wise?
So I mean, most immediate that's coming up is the totally mysterious Beat Saber tournament tomorrow. That one's been kind of all over the place, still trying to figure out rule sets, timings, and stuff, but it should be a good time. It looks a little more of like a casual tournament. It's not a huge production like the BSMG or the Cube Community tournaments are, mainly because Totally Mysterious started out running him by himself and was recruiting. Then we have the Space Junkies tournament that Manello and I are hosting. Manello is Axis Mun's partner at the Space Junkies ESL event. There's a bunch of other leagues still going on. I mean, VRML, I think, currently hosts 4 or 5 leagues. You said I'm playing in the Final Assault ones. That's happening every week. So I'm hopping around a lot. It's been a lot of fun, but it certainly keeps me busy. Yeah,
I think I am supposed to be casting the Totally Mysterious tournament tomorrow, but I'm not sure kind of what's going on with that. And so he's talking about a bunch of the leagues, which we posted the link to the VR Master League in chat earlier, but we'll post it again a little bit later. What about you, Proper? What are you working on?
Yeah, again, the most immediate thing that's coming up is the Contractors VR, which is VRML. I believe that's starting this Sunday, and should be spanning a couple of weeks, I think. So that's pretty exciting. I'm generally pretty excited for most shooters, shooters that involve like 5-man teams and involve rifles with bullets. But yeah, I'm another title that I think a lot of us have our sort of eyes set onto the horizon, which also came up when we met up at ESL, was Population 1. And I'm pretty excited about that. I'm not too sure when it's going to be coming out, but I imagine when it does come out, it's probably going to be pretty big. And I imagine the competitive scene is probably going to follow suit. It's probably going to be pretty big as well. I mean, that's just a assumption, but it's pretty spicy. It's pretty exciting.
Mullern likes to listen to your voice. I agree. You should just talk about what's going on in the Master League. You could just read the website. Onward, Spring Championship.
Thank you, Mullern. Very kind.
So that's Contractors, Space Junkies currently going on. Final Assault's got a league going on. So there's a bunch of stuff that if you are interested in participating competitively in VR esports, there's literally so much out there. So yeah, we should just have a podcast for proper. It's a really good idea.
Thank you, Mandy.
Yeah, I don't have a link on hand, but I still track all the Beat Saber events. There's tons of arcade tournaments popping up again towards the end of the summer now. So if you're interested in playing at a LAN locally, there's probably one in your area if you're in the States, and there's a bunch more worldwide. There's been like 200 or 300 events that I've found over the last couple months. So
yeah, it's just growing. I mean, not to name drop further, but I know that Mammoet VR, who is also part of our community, who is the head of our community, I guess, is actually planning to host some tournaments, some sort of Mammoet VR Cup tournaments, just for prizes which involve like the new VR gun stock, the Mammoet Apto and stuff like that. But it's just nice to see it springing up everywhere, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, and Elliot's saying even an Nautica tournament, they've been talking about that as well.
Yeah, so there was a little bit of chat for a while that the Val was going to try to contact them and see if they could get that in the arcade tournament, but I think they might have stalled out on that. But I mean, there's definitely interest from people to play an Nautica tournament. I think it's a really watchable game. There's more movement because there's actually out of field of view elements to it, so it's a little more dynamic than Beat Saber and what you're actually watching, I think. Not that it's modded as much, so there's not as much actually going on that you can customize, but I think the actual gameplay itself at its core is a little more fun to watch.
I really need to play more of it. It's been like I played it like for 2 days when it first came out, and now there's like custom songs and all sorts of stuff, and I haven't tried it at all.
Yeah, Beat Saber definitely is a more exhausting game. It's more of a workout. But I think Nautica is more, I mean, some people say it's more true to the rhythm game genre because it actually scores you on rhythm, on accuracy, on hitting the notes the same way Beat Saber kind of does for slices. But it gives you a more kind of dynamic experience. You have to track stuff out of your field of view and move around. And I mean, people also look cool playing Nautica. They have a lot of cool camera features built in. If you think they don't, you probably just haven't watched the right people stream. So.
I feel like I look really cool when I play Beat Saber. Do you guys feel that way? Do you feel like you look really cool?
Oh, absolutely. I just feel like a hero.
I do too. I feel like a samurai. And then I look back at it and I'm like, I probably don't look nearly as cool as I feel inside. The other thing that's coming up as well. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say I'm basically glad that the only capture is the mixed reality capture, rather than just me standing there flapping my arms around.
Yeah, but you look cool in your mixed reality setup. I need to get mine set up. I do like a virtual camera with an avatar, but I haven't had it set up with my Index yet. I just started playing on an Index. Have you guys had a chance to try out Index at all?
I have not.
I am thinking about, so that's another thing we can talk about. So I'm thinking about bringing my Index to Dragon Con. So that's something else that's coming up. Pesky and I are both going to Dragon Con together. We're going to try and set up a stream room with a mixed reality setup for Beat Saber and maybe Nautica and things like that. We're going to try and stream while we're there. We're also going to be doing like Instagram content, and I will be recording a vlog while there. So that's next month, the end of next month in Atlanta, Georgia, which I think will be really cool. Yeah, I think that'll be fun. And then also next weekend is the Cube Community Tournament, So that has $2,000 in prizes, I think. And it is online. It's being hosted by Cube Community. Friday before the tournament, we're actually going to have Amanatsu and Cube Community staff, I believe. Pug and one other is joining us, and we're going to talk to Cube Community kind of about what they do, their recordings, the tournament, and stuff like that. And then the tournament starts the day after, and then I'll be casting in that tournament as well. Klouder, are you casting in Cube Community?
Yep.
Yep, so Klouder and I will both be casting that tournament. So that starts next weekend as well. So there's so much out there. If you want to make money by playing video games, there are options. We can talk about that a little bit as well. So that's some of the stuff that's coming up. It's not just Beat Saber, but there's a lot of Beat Saber stuff coming up. Oh, and then TwitchCon. So then at the end of September is TwitchCon, and I know a lot of people are going to that. I actually just bought my TwitchCon ticket today. So let's see. Okay, so that's a bunch of the stuff that's coming up. So if people are interested in getting involved, what do they do? What would you suggest?
I mean, as far as getting involved, I think just look around for events, participate. I mean, you don't even have to expect that you're going to be able to compete well. Just participating in events, I mean, inherently makes you more accustomed to them. Getting out there, you meet people give you tips. If you want to try to play more competitively, you want to find something where you can actually make some money. I'd say look around for the smaller games that are hosting events. There are a lot of fun little VR games that are tucked away that have events and stuff. That's kind of how I got into this whole thing with Archangel. I just found a game that was pretty entertaining with a small user base, but was running events. And you can meet developers really easily that way. They can spin you off to other people. You can network pretty well that way. Get around the VR discords. So look for the small stuff and the big stuff. I mean, Beat Saber is definitely one of the harder ones to get to a level where you're going to win money, just because so many people are playing it. But just getting involved any way you can, even if you don't think you're going to succeed, I think is the important part.
What about you, Proper? Access is saying get in game discords.
I could see Access Monday as well, sort of basically saying what I would say. I think it's very heavily sort of focused, or locust rather, around Discord. I also basically I try and have as many channels on my Discord as possible. When people see my channel list, they're actually kind of disgusted because I can scroll down it and it just never seems to end. And for a lot of people, that's kind of intimidating. But to be honest, it really helps to receive the announcements for such tournaments, for example. Like it would be a struggle to sort of follow it anywhere else, I feel. Whereas when it comes to Discord, it really just comes to your doorstep. You will be notified whenever there is a tournament, when you're part of whatever that game's Discord channel is, and it would be difficult to miss stuff. Essentially, I imagine.
Twitter as well. I use Twitter for a lot. There's a lot of information that gets posted there. But it's basically just following, Phaserlock Interactive and Oculus and things like that, and just kind of keeping an eye out on stuff. VR Master League is a big one. Do you guys know when they're going to be announcing the Season 4 games? Have they done that yet?
I think that's still kind of information under lock and key. Like, they haven't told anyone outside. I feel like this, quote, big Space Junkies announcement that is looming is going to correspond to that. But I don't think they've given anyone any hints of when they're going to actually release Season 4. Because they were originally thinking about trying to do it really quick turnaround and do a season over the summer to end at Oculus Connect, like they did, I believe it was last year. But I don't think they could plan on that short notice. So it's looking like it's probably going to be more something that runs through the end of the year, kind of rolls over into next year for finals.
And Access is saying, yeah, there's a lot of Team Finder channels in the Discords, things like that. Looking for groups.
It seems to be the easiest
scrims.
way to find team members. Discord, anyway, from what I can tell.
There was another game that just got released as well that people were talking about on Twitter, but I don't remember it. I know we talked a little bit.
Telefrag and Battle Wake have been the big game names I've been hearing the last week or so.
I also heard Cradle of Sin, which is apparently going to be the first VR MOBA game, which I have no idea what to expect, to be honest. But I imagine if it's anyway half decent, it probably will be.
You said Battle Wake. Oh, Battle Wake is a pirate one. Dude, I'm a pirate.
Yeah, that one's pretty fun. The beta just started today, the closed beta, and the other one is Telefrag. It's another Quake in space kind of game. I believe it's basically Quake with portals and VR.
It's only 1v1 though, isn't it? Which is slightly upsetting, but still looks pretty good. It still looks pretty exciting.
How are you guys liking the 3v3 in Space Junkies? How is it changing things?
I mean, it's really fun. I think that the game was built. I mean, the game was originally built to have 3v3 competition. The devs told us this at the LAN finals. It was just they had some optimization issues where, with all the stuff they were doing in their custom engine, they couldn't make it work at first. But I mean, it adds a lot more depth with you have to really manage what weapons you're picking up, who's taking up armor packs. It makes it a little harder to completely wipe a team. It makes it harder to lock a team into specific parts of the map, which was a kind of problem in the finals. You could kind of corner somebody and just keep spawning there. So I think it adds a lot more depth. It also came with some really big open maps that are really fun to play on.
Yeah, that newest map, which I can't imagine actually playing without being a 3v3, which I can't remember the name of, but it is huge. It's so big.
Yeah, they
and,
have.
I haven't actually had a chance to play 3v3 yet. I mean, this is the nature of competitive VR at the moment is it's difficult to divide yourself at this point. When there was so few games, it was easy, but now that more and more games are coming out, you're going to have to become selective, I guess, which is so sad.
Yeah, and now some of the drama with it going to 3v3 is teams splitting up, merging, rejoining. So we'll see how that ends up coming from a
exactly.
space see if teams just split up and form power squads, or if people actually develop the teams they started with.
I didn't even think about that. Is that happening? Are people like trying to snipe? Is it like, is there drama in the world? Oh, I see. That's mean. Are people trying to snipe you, Pesky?
Huh? I've had offers, yes.
So good.
So
My goodness, I didn't even think about that. Yeah, like just trying to grab.
It's one of the unique things with going from 2v2 to 3v3 is, especially with Space Junkies, where the player count of people that were really competitive was low. That, I mean, you snag one person from another competitive team, and suddenly there's no one else currently that can compete with you. There'll certainly be more teams that pop up as ESL announces. If they announce there's going to be another Space Junkie season, certainly there'll be more teams. But to have 3 of the 4 competitors from ESL, say, that'd be a huge advantage right out of the gate.
We have Gravity and Mullerin talking, the ESL veterans, so we don't know the meaning of drama.
Oh yeah.
They have a lot of history with ESL. Team Gravity also was pretty competitive in some of the Echo titles. Which Echo did you compete in? And is also the manager for Team Gravity. So we have a lot of people that have a lot of experience in the competitive space. Yeah, see? EU, Echo, ESL teams.
Yeah, we had a bit of drama this year when they started changing up the rule sets on the fly because they were having crashing issues with one of the Echo games. I remember that was a bit of drama.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that was with our team. We were like the first ones playing, and it was like 3 games in a row crashes on the other team, and we lost some points. It was very upsetting. People were upset. People were yelling. I had to go to the hotel room.
Yeah.
If EU is number 1 in anything, it's 100% in drama.
I think, to be honest, yeah, I mean, this is just the reality of the sporting world, though, isn't it? I don't think there necessarily needs to be any bad blood born out of it. It's just, it happens. It's just competition. It's just the nature of competition.
Do you think that VR lends itself to being less toxic than other esports communities. So when you say, like, Access is saying it's like a little family, and you're saying, you know, things do happen, but there's never really any bad blood. Do you think that's because of how VR works, or do you think it's pretty much the same as, like, you know, CSGO or some of those other, like, Overwatch communities, things like that?
I've been wondering. I'm sorry. I thought you were talking.
Go ahead.
Please continue, Pesky.
I was just thinking a lot of this from talking to Haskell, one of the editors for V Respawn a while back, is that it's more kind of at the extremes, like VR because it's so interactive. You can feel like you get a lot closer to people. There's more like a sense of camaraderie, but at the same time, like if you want to be a huge dick, like you can go and you can harass people like more physically in VR. So I think there's this kind of a double-edged sword there. Although I do think the latter group is much smaller in VR because of that.
And what were you going to say, Proper?
Yeah, no, I was just about to agree. It's sort of like I've been wondering about that myself, as to I do seem to experience a lot of less toxicity in VR than I did previously on flat screen gaming. And as Pesky says, I imagine that's got very much to do with the sense of sociability, and you are actually looking at people, you are feeling their presence. It's not so much, it doesn't sort of turn into sort of like road rage or anything like that, which you experience on the streets, because you're basically just moving metal boxes. Like you're actually sort of person to person, and
you can see their mannerisms. You know, you see when they're moving their hands, and there's a sense of humanity when that's happening, that I think really isn't present in some of the other traditional titles, which I think is really interesting in VR. Like I've met a lot of people from VR in real life at this point, especially after Anime Expo and that whole thing. I've met a great majority of the community, but it really feels very much like I already know them before I meet them, because I spend so much time with them in VR. And because, you know, I'm aware, like I know how so-and-so acts, you know, I know their movements, I know their mannerisms, I know how they act when they've had a couple of drinks, you know, things like that, like that you don't really, that doesn't translate unless you're really in VR with somebody.
Yeah.
What about, I was reading one of Gravity's answers to an interview, and he was talking about, you know, how does it compare getting online to practice with your team in VR versus traditional esports? You know, if you're going to have a 5-hour session of Echo Arena or of Space Junkies versus a 5-hour session of Overwatch, you know, what's the difference? How is that different for you? Is it more akin to, you know, going and tossing a ball, you know, for a couple of hours because there's so much more physicality to it? Is it a good hour or two at most? 5 hours would be brutal. Yeah, exactly that, because of the physicality.
Yeah, and I think that's pretty true, and it depends a lot on the game. I mean, it's kind of like what people were saying earlier, where like 5 hours in Beat Saber is a world of difference from, you know, 5 hours in Audica. Each has their kind of their stressors, but depending on what you're doing, like I found this really quick playing Spark the other day when it was on a free weekend. Just like, you know, throwing a disc 500 times in 30 minutes. You don't think about it until you're done, that it's like, oh, maybe I should have stretched, because this is like actually a sport.
So just reading the chat. Exactly. A lot of some of the games you pull for 5 hours, especially the shooter games, and if anything, you just get a little bit back strain and stuff. It is, as exactly as Pesky says, it's a world apart from something like Beat Saber, when you're just so dynamic constantly. And but yeah, trying to organize it, as you were saying, sort of team practice, it can be tricky. Sort of trying to get everybody together, because they have to be so physically present, I imagine. So yeah.
Yeah, Access saying my hips and back hurt after onward matches from crouching and laying down. Have you noticed any difference in how that has affected you in your real life, playing VR games that kind of require you to move versus kind of being seated at your desk?
So I have kind of a strange backstory with that I think I've told you, where right after I bought Beat Saber, I got super competitive. For whatever reason, I was like all about no arrows mode, so I was like trying to maintain all the #1 scores on all the songs for like the first 2 weeks, and then I broke my neck playing softball, and then when I finally healed about 2 months later,
you guys heard that correctly. He broke his neck playing softball.
that was not misspeaking. I threw a ball from the outfield and cracked one of my vertebrae sideways, so that was fun. But yeah, so that really exposed the physicality of VR. At the time, I was playing Orbis, and I was playing an archer class, so you actually have to draw every arrow at full draw to shoot it. And so just trying to do that like in a neck brace, or trying to play the first Space Junkies beta, in a neck brace, just propping myself up in a chair so I could at least like get in the game and pretend like I could compete. So yeah, it was very different having that kind of perspective where you go from just, you stretch a little bit, you play Beat Saber on expert mode, which back then for no arrows wasn't like a huge deal. And then going to like Expert Plus was out. I was trying to compete when I came back. And I'm like, oh, I'm like, 2 weeks off a broken neck. Like, this is a very different game now.
Blimey, I did not know that, man. That sounds like a big deal. Jesus.
Yeah, we actually bonded over this because I don't know if you know this proper, but my Beat Saber story is spine related as well. I got Beat Saber a little bit after everybody else did. I got it to recover from spine surgery. So I had spine surgery in April of 2018. Prior to that, like, I couldn't walk at all unassisted. I used a walker to go everywhere. There was a 15% chance that the surgery wouldn't work and I wouldn't be able to walk ever again, but it did. So I got Beat Saber in July as part of my recovery. I actually won the quest for the My Saber Story giveaway. For how Beat Saber has changed my life. So when I first started playing, I could play one song a day. I'd wake up, I'd put my headset on. Well, I'd do my little walk, my little 30-second walk that I had to do every day. And then I'd put my headset on, I'd play one song, and that was it. And then the next day I played two. And now I stream, I'm fully recovered. I travel a lot. But Beat Saber really, once I could play for about an hour, I started streaming to my friends that played like World of Warcraft and things like that, because I was a big WoW player before my spine went out, and I just wanted to show them VR and like how cool it was, and that's kind of how I started meeting like the Beat Saber community. Hammer was one of the first people in my chat, and he was one of the top players at the time. And yeah, I streamed more and more, and then I went to TwitchCon, and Beat Saber completely changed my life because of my spine as well. So at finals we were like bonding over our spine stories.
Broken spine, Beat Saber crew.
That is amazing, though. I mean, that is truly inspirational. That's really cool. I did not know that. That's a backstory there.
And a lot of people stop. He didn't know our backstories.
I'm out.
I was waiting for the drums. I was waiting for the but it didn't happen. Just
what a backstory we both have. Ha 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 ha.
But
I'm sorry.
That. I just sort of going back to ESL again. I mean, it was really nice to hear from people like my teammate Green, who is sort of in a wheelchair because of arthritis and stuff. And the story is that VR is sort of, it's getting them back into the gaming world, and it's sort of making them a lot more interested in it as well. He was explaining because of the sociability, because it was like there was a connection with people, there was like a motivation to actually get up and start moving and actually start playing games. And Green is an amazing bloke, Monday. And yeah, I mean, inspirational stories. It's really nice to hear them coupled with the growth of VR. If you know what I mean? It's the road, so to speak. It's just really interesting.
That it's not very open.
I'll actually show them a little bit. So this is Proper and his partner Mr. Green is actually in a wheelchair, but this is them competing at Worlds this year so that's Stu. You guys see him in my chat a little bit. They actually ended up winning Worlds this year for Space Junkies. And there's Proper. But yeah, his teammate is in a wheelchair because of arthritis, and we got to hang out with him, have a few drinks with him. Yeah, very cool. Maybe they'll show him again. They're focusing on Proper because he's big cutie. They may have. I haven't seen it. Very possible though. He's such a cool guy.
despite the space out the kills between the
He
enemies,
is.
right?
He's
So if
really,
they can
he's
keep
really
them
cool. I
delayed a bit,
yeah,
where
the
one is only
hurdles,
spawning it at a time,
overcoming,
they can keep
it's
that
just-
control over the map.
Wow. And
Not
you
to be
saw
sneezed.
Stu there, such aggression coming out
Yeah,
with him.
dirty.
He's really utilizing that.
And so
skill
that's
set
another
really
huge
well.
thing
I mean,
is just
you're really seeing the tracking coming
all
out
of
that
the
camera, but
things that you
Stu
can
is
actually do with VR. And I wanted to talk about that a little bit as well. We've talked a little bit about like how it can help you with recovery and things like physical therapy, but I've also heard like a ton of stories about people losing weight because, you know, they're going from not being very active to their main passion now is a physical activity. Even if it's please stop, Hammer. I identify Hammer has broken 5 HTC Vives and 1 Oculus Rift.
Wow. That's an achievement.
It is an achievement. He's the founder, he's the creator of B Grip for the HTC Vive. I tell that to everybody that will listen when they're in the chat. But yeah, like losing weight, getting off blood pressure medications. I was talking to Haskell a little bit at the finals, and she was talking about how it has helped her with her fear of flying. And I feel like that's actually been the case for me because I used to be a really bad flyer, like notoriously bad. And I slept for the first time on a flight on my way to the UK this year. And like, it was like, that's mind boggling to me because I used to just be obscenely bad. Like I have to be very, very, very knocked out to get on a plane. But what other things, like how has it changed anything for you guys physically? It has ruined my sleep schedule. Okay, well, so there's some bad things as well.
I mean,
I'm pretty sure we can all relate to that.
like semi-related transportation. I think first time I put my dad in VR, it made me appreciate bad drivers more. I put him in Forza, and I forgot that it's like pretty intense if you roll the car because I was never a bad enough driver to do that. And I put him in my desk chair, and he rolled the car off a cliff and like threw himself out of the chair into my bookcase.
Like rolled the chair as well.
Like this is like a big like executive desk chair, and he was sitting in it and just like took the chair with him and had to catch him before he like fell into the bookcase. And I was like, oh, this is how like bad drivers on the road like feel every day.
Oh my god, were you horrified? Did he hurt himself? Was he okay?
No, he was fine. I ended up catching him, but he was terrified and just took it off and just left. Said nothing. just left. He was like, I'm done. I'll come back when you find something safer.
A racing game esports would be actually really fun. That'd be amazing. Are there any like really good racing games for VR?
Oh wait, no, it wasn't Forza. It was a Dirt Rally. Right?
Dirt Rally.
Yeah. I'm trying to think. There's one other one because Dirt Rally just basically changes the camera view to be first person in VR. Assetto Corsa.
There's
I
a new
haven't actually
Everbank.
played any, and it's true. I think Sprint Vector was about to take off, but unfortunately the player base was just too small. It's definitely one of the more physical VR games. I think just a regular race sort of got my heart pumping up to about 180.
What
not
Axis
even
was
really
saying.
trying either.
I think there is a V-Racer hover bike just added multiplayer support. That game looked interesting. I'm not sure how well it's implemented, but it definitely looked like it had some potential, so I might have to go check that one out.
Yeah, just missed the summer sale as well, which I'm sad about, but
So
definitely.
it looks like Team Gravity's played it.
Oh yeah, and Malern was saying there's a Steam sale going on right now that's like space based, and there's some VR space games on that sale as well.
Yeah, Space Junkies is $7 right now. I don't think it'll ever be that cheap again. So if you haven't bought it and you're actually interested, it's a great time to pick it up on Humble Bundle.
That is an
I need to get
absolute
it,
steal.
actually.
$7.
So it used to be 40. I mean, not but a couple weeks ago. So that's one heck of a steal.
I say the three of us just start our own Space Junkies. That would be dramatic. The three of us just start our own Space Junkies team. I'm sorry,
drama,
Team Gravity.
no
I have to go. You guys can teach me how to play. We'll take Axis too.
No worries.
Let's say we'll probably be hosting more comp cups. We were trying to get one together that was just for newer players, so maybe we'll find someone to toss you in with and just.
Yeah, a
Or
newbie
in
cup would
fans.
actually be really cool. I think Final Assault is doing something like that, like a newbie league. But I could be complete. There's Manillo. Manillo is in the chat.
Yeah, Space Junkies it's 16 euros on Steam right now, but you can get a Steam key on Humble Bundle for 7.
So Manello is also on Team Gravity. He's our other space junkie. I lost chat with that. Now Axis Mund has our emotes. Let me refresh chat. And he is hosting an event with you this weekend, right? A Space Junkies event?
Yep.
Hey, thank you for using your Prime on me.
Yeah, while I'm here. But yeah, so we're hosting a 2v2 Space Junkies, kind of a return to the roots from ESL. There were a lot of people, because they had established teams already, they were looking to do some of that, including some of the arcade teams that had played way back in the launch day arcade tournament. So they were trying to get in on that. It was just unfortunate that today was, or this weekend had a bunch of events going on Sunday. I think you said the contractors event, as well as some other leagues, had stuff going on Sunday. So we'll probably look at another date if whatever this announcement that Space Junkies had coming up doesn't throw us for a big loop.
And what exciting Space Junkie stuff is coming? Also, where can we watch those? Where can we watch the contractor stuff, and where can we watch the Space Junkies stuff?
So I'm not sure if we're going to cast this one. Right now, we don't have a whole lot of teams. We're still working on a way to get access to caster mode, which has been one of the long-standing requests. Ubisoft's caster mode for Space Junkies is, I don't want to call it like proprietary, but it's kind of behind closed doors. They have to give you access to their server to get in. It's not just like a public use thing. So we're working on getting access to that. We may restream some people and commentate if we have people streaming their games. And that would either be on mine or Manella's channels, I imagine.
Yeah, at the moment, as far as I can tell, thank you for the shout out. Teehee. They are the contractors. There's not the spectator mode has only just come out for contractors, so casters are. I think they're slowly picking up on that, but we've basically been having to make do with doing those sort of the multi-stream things with everybody's own personal stream so that they can watch the team in unison, so to speak. But now that spectators mode has come out, I'm hoping that it will become much more of a spectator sport. I mean, it's very difficult to spectator sport without that nice sort of overview of the whole playing field, if you know what I mean. So with any luck, that's what will help.
I'm posting to Space Junkies since it's on sale. People are saying it's actually a ridiculous sale.
Yeah, it's actually not on sale
great
on
sale.
the Steam store. It's on sale in the Humble Bundle store. But I think it gets you a Steam key. But yeah, I mean, the quality of Space Junkies is incredibly nice. I mean, they've put so much effort into the custom engine and the little fine mechanics, like when you pull, I mean, the slingshot's the one people always use as an example. It actually stretches the little rubber band on it. They put a ton of detail. It is still a little buggy after the last release, but I mean, that doesn't overshadow the fact that the game is so well made at its foundation, and as long as they keep developing for it, it's not going to get any worse, certainly. And for $7, I mean, that's one of the best deals you can get for a game that's replayable, especially now that there's bots you can play against at will.
Absolutely.
How are the
They've
bots,
been really
by the way?
good with the
Yeah.
updates. Oh, sorry. Yeah.
That's what I was going to ask: is how are the bots? How have the updates been? Are you guys happy with that?
Yeah, I've been happy with all of it so far. I mean, I'll let Proper give his 2 cents, but the bots pretty much range from just kind of wandering around to every shot is a headshot. Good luck. And they've done a pretty good balancing pass on all the weapons lately, so I think it's in a good place for competitive.
I agree. When the short time that I've had with the bots, I was particularly impressed. I mean, their movements and sort of they sort of take cover and all this sort of stuff. It's actually very impressive and great if you're sort of struggling to find something to train with competitively. But yeah, and the updates. I mean, I've been particularly impressed, I think, with the guys behind Space Junkies with the updates because they've been very regular and they've been very how do you put it? They've been very they publicized it. You see what I mean? They've been good at making sure that they've been trying to get the message out there, which I think is so important. Which I fear a lot of others games seem to struggle at. which surprises me, to be honest. Like, regular updates are what really help to bolster the population of the game and really help to grow it, in fact. And it really feels like Space Junkies are putting their efforts in the right places, and hopefully it works. I think it is. I think in the past couple of weeks, the player base has grown a fair bit. Like, you're not sort of just... there was a point where you really were just waiting around in lobby for quite some time, just hoping that somebody would join you. But I think that is going to be a thing of the past. I think the population is growing enough. Yeah.
And yeah, I really enjoyed the devs as well. Axis is saying the devs have been really good, and I really enjoyed I actually got to sit in between them during a lot of the matches that people were playing, and so I had like very good information about the maps and spawn locations like on either side of me, because I had never played Space Junkies before. So while I was watching you guys play, I had both of the devs on either side of me just answering all of my questions. Is actually really cool.
Yeah, and I think one of the nice things, especially after the LAN event with those devs, is they realized that kind of the way they were testing it in the office, the way that they play is vastly different from a lot of the competitive play, and so they were much more open to things that they would have considered like outlandish suggestions. Like, people were saying, oh, when the bow first came out as a weapon, everyone said it was underpowered. They thought that it was like perfectly balanced. It was pretty much universally agreed on. Like, okay, like we'll make it to what we think is some absurd number, because like this is what you guys say it should be, and we believe you. And they did, and now pretty much everyone agrees like that was the right balancing decision. It wasn't outlandish. Like, it's where it needs to be. They're much more open than a lot of devs to go beyond what they think is their personal opinions on balancing, on classes, on designing the way maps are, and actually adjusting that to feedback than a lot of, especially VR games, I've seen.
And that's one of the great things about Beat Saber as well, is the devs are very, very involved in the community. When they were doing the calculations for, the new angles and the new scoring to 115, they involved a lot of the community members in that, a lot of the top players, to get those numbers correct. And I think that makes a huge difference when you're asking people that are, playing the game at the highest level that there is for their feedback and actually taking that feedback. I think that's such a huge thing.
Absolutely. I think it's also worthy to mention that I have the utmost of respect for the guys at the helm of Space Junkies, because, I mean, Beat Saber, that they're doing a great job, but they also have a nice sort of beefy population to support it. Whereas Space Junkies,
tons.
They really sort of like managed to sort of pull it back from the brink, I feel. And I think what they did there is to be commended. You know what I mean? They've really played the right cards, I think.
Yeah, and the game looks super fun. It's fast-paced, it's a Slayer type thing. People are buying it from chat. I just bought it as well. We should do like a community Space Junkies day. You guys can watch me play it for the first time. That'd be fun, huh? It's like super cheap right now.
ashleyriott Twitch like tournament.
Yeah, teach me how to... I'm worried that I would get like sick because it's zero grav.
So yeah, some people say they have issues with motion sickness. Usually I've found that the people that say that, they tinker with either the blinders on the helmet, they smooth turn on, or they adjust the graphics setting. A lot of that goes away. They have a lot of customization options they built in with that in mind.
I've actually found zero gravity games to be the least motion sickness inducing. But again, I think that's a very subjective experience. I think that was just my experience. For me, most of the motion sickness came from games where you would sort of fall or drop, like Windlands when that first came out. That was the only game, I think, in my history of gameplay that made me feel sick, actually VR sick. But it's so easy to get over as well. I think it's important to encourage people who do get motion sickness that it doesn't take much to actually lose the motion sickness pretty quickly, I find.
It's just like sea legs. People say it's like you get your VR legs. If you get seasick, you just 15 minutes a day over and over and over, and then it's kind of goes away. And I've also heard that, we were talking about this a little bit, about the things that it's changed for you in real life. I've heard of people that have gotten much better at their motion sickness, like in cars and things like that, after using VR regularly. Like they're able to read and stuff. Yeah, like it's positively affected that.
Yet
Yeah.
another use for VR.
Yeah, I think one kind of crossover that would be unique on my end is for a long time I was doing indoor rock climbing, and I found that because it's extremely forearm intensive for if you do like bouldering as opposed to climbing with ropes, and you end up seeing a lot of crossover with Beat Saber and that, where like obviously if you do one back to back you're super tired, but if you give like adequate breaks in between, you can actually tell that you're building forearm muscle playing Beat Saber and then going back and forth. And so like rock climbing helps your stamina, and Beat Saber, playing Beat Saber helped me rock climb better. So that was kind of an interesting thing I saw.
Are you
Just from the
still
physical.
climbing? Because somebody that we're staying with at Dragon Con is an avid climber as well, and they're like, well, we can go climbing if you want. When we go to...
I haven't done a ton lately, but I'm always game to climb. I have a couple of friends who are super avid climbers, so I've gone outdoors with them a couple times around Texas and Oklahoma.
None of us, yeah, that'd be awesome. What about you guys? So do you guys ever get motion sickness outside of VR, like driving or anything like that? And what about you, chat? See, I don't. I can read in a car, I can read on a bus, I can write, like I can be on my phone. I don't get motion sickness at all. But when I first started playing VR games, I did. I don't as much anymore.
Yeah, I used to have really bad motion sickness as a kid, but I haven't in my adult life, and I've never really seen any issues with VR, except in weird situations. Like I had, I think the only time I've really gotten motion sick was I took my Quest when I first got it on a plane, and there was turbulence while I was playing a roller coaster game, and that was the weirdest experience of like my life, like from a sensory perspective, just being on a roller coaster in VR and then hitting turbulence on a plane.
I can't imagine.
It's really funny that you say that, because we were just at Anime Expo in California, and I was streaming on my streamiversary. It happened while we were there, and while we were streaming, there was an earthquake. And it was the first earthquake I've ever been in my life. And it was like a rough one. Like it lasted about 30 seconds, and somebody was playing Guitar Hero and they had the VR headset on and they were playing in VR, and they didn't even realize there was an earthquake. They were like, I just thought I was killing it, right? Like I was just jamming out, and like everybody was screaming, and like it felt like the house was shaking. I was like, man, it was my cock was the guy that was playing, and I was like, man, my cock is really, like, he is going to town, right? Like he is, I feel like we're shaking, like, because he's keeping the beat. And then we realized we were in the middle of an earthquake, and we were all papegas, and we stood underneath like the braces. But yeah, like he had no idea that the earthquake was happening, because he was like so sensory deprived because he was in VR.
That's amazing. True immersion right there.
Hi, Hexagonial. Hey, Pega. Beat Saber helps with light sensitivity. Not exactly motion sickness, but similar enough. Yep. Hi, Razzie. We are just talking to Proper and Pesky. We are talking about competitive VR gaming and kind of switching over from Beat Saber to competitive VR gaming, kind of all of the stuff that's coming up, how they got into it. And it sounds scary. I've never been in an earthquake. Apparently it was like the strongest earthquake California had seen in like 20 years, and we were all at the house. Like Elite was there, like a bunch of Golfu was there, our whole house was there. Hey, thank you so much for gifting a sub, your first gift sub in the channel, access to Osiris 99. Hey John as well, how are you today? Have you ever been in an earthquake, either of you?
I think a couple small ones when I was in Oklahoma. They're really big on their fracking, so.
Yikes, that was my first one.
I have. I grew up in Indonesia, so there was quite a few down there. But the main one that I remember was it happened in the middle of the night. I didn't quite know what was happening, but I sort of woke up after it had finished, and then all I could hear was this sort of like slapping noise. And then I went outside in my swimming pool at the time. We were lucky enough to live in quite a big house there. But the swimming pool was basically just the water was trying to escape. It was just like splashing up the sides, like higher than my head. It was quite impressive.
That's
quite
nuts.
Intimidating. Yeah. So it must have been quite a big quake.
Wow, and it sounds scary. No, that was in Indonesia, he said, right? That was in Indonesia?
That was in Indonesia, yes.
Yeah, that's not even an A. No, she's here. She does the question sections. You don't have any Klouder questions. So if you have any questions for our guests, if you have questions about competing VR, things like that, we're going to get to that pretty soon. Indonesia sounds scary.
Why even go outside, you know?
The Daystar is out there. We have VR. Also, did you guys hear about Elon Musk and the neural network thing that they signed? That
just heard
I
about
saw
that.
briefly. Yeah.
How do you guys feel about that?
Suddenly became more pertinent.
Yeah, I was just staring at that. Are you excited? Would you be the first people to like test a neural network if you could be beta testers for it?
I mean, I'd do it.
Yeah, I think I'd be too scared.
It sounds amazing, but yeah, I think I'd be terrified. Absolutely terrified.
It looks cool, but it's so far off from being viable commercially. Yeah. Grayson, Elon Musk like signed a patent or something on working on a neural network, and one of the intended uses is like to control VR avatars. Is like in the. You think you'd do it? You'd be like a beta tester. I think I'd be too scared. I do like
control them without having to use your body.
Yeah, like it's full dive, right? Like
use your mind.
Interesting. Okay.
Have to look it up. Yeah, dude. I think I'd be too scared. I'd probably be like maybe not the alpha testers. Maybe I'd be a beta tester. But I mean, I've seen SAO. I know what happens.
Yeah. As long as you have a log out button.
Yeah. What if you don't? You're just trapped. Yeah. Everybody. It's like 50. Well, it's like 20/80. Like 20% of people would try it.
Yeah. SAO Beat Saber.
Oh, God.
So we talked a little bit about how to get involved in the VR communities. You guys said to use Twitter, use Discord, join the games, Discords, and kind of keep an eye out for that. What about for VR news? Do you guys use any particular websites, or do you just use the Discords and things for that?
So I'm actually a writer for V-Respawn. I mainly cover the games that I play in, so Beat Saber tournaments, especially Space Junkies. That's kind of what got me deeper into it. I wrote a couple things way back when I was playing Archangel, read a couple guides. So I'm working on a series of Beat Saber guides. I made one that's basically like how to set up your system. I made another one that was more about like getting involved in communities, doing stuff like this, how to get out there and participate. And I'm trying to work on one that's basically the Get Good guide, but that one's a little more tough because a lot of that depends on each person's play style. It's kind of hard to customize a general plan for someone to say, just go do this and you'll be good at Beat Saber. It's not really how it works.
So I went ahead and linked your masterclass as well as your author page for VR Respawn and V-Respawn's main page as well. So they are kind of a VR news website. There's a lot of great writers doing cool stuff on that website. They do a lot of news for VR titles, Onward, the finals, Beat Saber, Audica, things like that. So it is definitely a good place to check out. Accessing Twitter. I use Twitter as well. Big time. I follow Team Gravity for a lot of my news. I follow all of my teammates from Team Gravity. I follow Pesky, and then as well as like the game developers too. They are a wealth of information, and I retweet them and things like that. Get your name out there. What about you, Proper? What do you use for your VR news?
Yeah, I'm the same. I rely very heavily on Twitter for the VR news, and yeah, can I just say I think you're doing a great job, by the way, Pesky. I think anybody who is sort of taking up the challenge of basically writing for VR is doing a great job, just bolstering what's out there. But yeah, Twitter seems to be the best, in my opinion, platform for VR news. That's for sure. It's just a nice sort of last thing at night, lie down in bed and just scroll through that endless Twitter list, just read up on VR. It's great, yeah.
And Twitch as well. I follow a lot of people on Twitch. I watch Twitch a lot. Like if I'm ever doing anything like around the house, I kind of have Twitch up and I'm watching streamers in different communities and kind of seeing what they're doing and what they're preparing for. That's a big one. What about Reddit? Do you guys use Reddit? I've been trying to be better at Reddit.
I don't use Reddit a whole lot. I used to post the listings, all the events I would find on Reddit. I kind of got in a bad habit of not doing that. I think people found that useful, so maybe I'll start doing that again now that I've gotten back in the swing of that with that events Discord. Because I mean, there's probably 10 or 20 arcade tournaments every 2 weeks that pop up. I mean, everywhere from what would seem like middle of nowhere Africa. I mean, I've seen 8 or 10 events in African countries, all the way up through pretty much every state in the U.S. So I mean, there's lots of news out there. I think it's a little easier to keep up with stuff on Twitter personally, but certainly worth looking.
And I also posted that spreadsheet of yours. I'm pretty sure this is that one.
Yeah, I think you posted earlier. But yeah, so I update the spreadsheet, and there's a little kind of companion Discord that I made just to ping people if they wanted to just know when stuff was near them.
That's really neat. Nice.
So.
And then there's also, if you're not involved, BSMG, they are part of who produces this podcast. Klouder is also a member of BSMG. You can join the Discord there. They're the modding group. They do a lot of support for modding on both PC as well as PSVR. Oh, and Oculus. Well, and the Quest now, I think. They have a bunch of support for that.
Yeah, the Quest.
Yeah, so if you are not in there, join that. It is a huge server with tons of community members in there. Very helpful. Please read the rules, though, because they have a lot of people and they cannot moderate you.
I'm going to toss the Discord link in there for anyone that wanted to...
Oh, send it to me and I'll put it in there. Send me the invite. It'll show up for you like it's posting, but it's actually not. It's just stars.
Oh, rip.
Yeah. But if you send it to me in DM, I can post it.
There it is. But yeah, so I mean, that's more just if you want to get pinged for specific events in your area, because that spreadsheet gets a little dense sometimes, so I don't clean it out. You can pick by states or provinces if you're in the US or Canada, or countries in Europe.
I am in this Discord. I did not even know that, but I am here.
So it's been a little dead lately. I just revived it like 2 weeks ago, so it was nice to see some more events. The past couple weeks there haven't been much going on. I usually scour Facebook, Google, a couple other sites to find stuff going on. It just kills me that big stuff like TwitchCon, Anime Expo, like they post events for things, like the day of, so it's kind of hard to find to get word out, which was kind of the purpose of that. If anyone finds anything, and just ping people about it that would be in the area.
But is that something that people could do as well? Like if they're doing a tournament and they want to get the word out, could they message you and let you know about it?
Yeah, so in that server, there's a link for, I just called it event submission. So if you find something I haven't found, or if you're trying to host your own, you can advertise it in there. You can put it in there, and that'll send out pings to people basically weekly. That stuff's coming up.
What is the next thing that you guys are going to community based? Are you doing are either of you doing TwitchCon here? Are you doing TwitchCon EU proper? Is that a goal of yours?
I'm planning to go, I mean, as you said, to Dragon Con with you. I don't think I'm going to go to TwitchCon this year. I might change my mind. I'm kind of up in the air on that one. I just don't have a huge reason to go yet. I might just do it just because. But, yeah.
What about you, Proper? Are you going to EU TwitchCon?
Yeah, I mean, I'd absolutely love to be able to, but I'm not too sure if I'm going to be able to make that a reality. I don't even know when it is.
They haven't announced a date for 2020 yet. This year it was in April, and I don't think they've announced a place either. I've heard, rumors that it was going to be in Amsterdam next year.
In Amsterdam. That would be very hard to resist, I think.
I want to go very badly. That is my next big goal is to go to TwitchCon EU. That would be so fun.
Oh, yes, that would just make the experience even more amazing, to be honest, Ashley. So
if I go, we'll just get a big house. It'd be so sick. Would you go Axis?
Yeah.
If it was in Amsterdam? If they make it in DK, I promise I'll be there. What's that? Death Knight. What's DK? Donkey Kong. Where is that? Am I a Papega?
I don't know. Attend virtual Donkey Kong conference for Twitch.
I live in Donkey Kong. Fuck, I'll never know. What is DK? I'm Googling it. It comes up as Donkey Kong Country. Well, you literally live in Donkey Kong Country. Denmark. That makes sense. Thanks, chat. I love you very much. I put in DK Country, and it came up with Donkey Kong Country, which makes perfect sense.
Hindsight's 2020.
That's amazing. Love it.
Oh my goodness. So we've been talking for like an hour and a half. I told you it goes really fast when you're talking about nerd stuff.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Which is a good time to ask chat. Do you guys have any questions for these guys? Do you have any questions about competitive esports? We've got a couple of casters in the chat today. We've got several members of TG. And we've got these two guys from Leftovers and from Danglers. So really, kind of any question that you possibly have for any like of the entire sphere that is competitive esports, I think we've got an expert somewhere. How do I improve a Beat Saber? I have an answer for you, Hexy. You take a break. If you are hurting,
injure yourself.
Exactly. If you are actually hurting and you're feeling discouraged, take a break. Play something else. Do you guys have any answers? And then I'll let Klouder do the rest of the questions from chat.
So the backstory on my icon, there was back when we put Archangel. My teammate was obsessed with Elon Musk. He went by many names. One was Mosquito Man, and yeah, so he had this obsession for a couple months with Elon Musk and Tesla and everything that stuff. So we had to submit a profile picture, but he refused to give me anything. So I just took his Discord profile picture and just photoshopped it onto my Twitch cover picture. So that was the story of Mosquito Man, and that became our official team picture when we went to TwitchCon.
I love it. Clouder, I'll let you do the rest of the question.
I just bought Space Junkies. What's the best tip you can give?
Best tip for Space Junkies. Probably be willing to adapt. A lot of Space Junkies complaints come from the fact that there's a decent amount of RNG still in the game, and you have to be able to work with stuff that you normally wouldn't, just by being forced to. Run medkit, yeah, that's a good one, Axis.
Yeah,
What about you,
absolutely.
Proper? One tip you'd
In
give.
my experience, like Space Junkies seems to be the most sort of rage quitty inciting game I've seen. So if anything, I think if you really want to give it a go, just sort of don't sort of get too what's the word? Don't get too down about not necessarily coming in at the top all the time. It does feel quite hard to sort of keep playing with any sense of motivation, especially when it feels like you're getting killed all the time. I'm speaking from personal experience here, of course. I feel that in Space Junkies a lot more than I do in anything else. So I guess it's important to learn to cope with that feeling, I guess. From a competitive standpoint, I suppose I'm talking about.
It's the League of Legends of VR. It's the most rage-inducing of all of the games. Now, do you feel like there's a pretty heavy learning curve when you first start playing Space Junkies? Like, is there a big difference between the lower tier players and the people who are very, very good at the game, or can you catch up pretty quickly?
I think it varies depending on what aspect of the game you're talking about. There's the pretty standard, knowing the map, knowing your way around. Until you figure that out, you're going to be at an inherent disadvantage. But I think just little things like knowing how to move very subtly to avoid shots, or like knowing ranges of weapons or things that take a long time to pick up on that definitely give you an edge.
What sort of size play space do you need for it?
Technically, you can play it seated. As I said, I played the first beta sitting down, but I had a broken neck, so it is doable. It's not great for that. There's not a whole lot of actual movement in the game that corresponds to movement in your space. If you move a significant distance, it'll kind of jump you around, but any size play space will work.
Yeah, as we saw with Mr. Green, I mean, he only plays seated, and yeah, I haven't actually experienced any occasion when I've actually needed to literally dive out of the way. I've never tried, but I think as Pesky said, it basically sort of it snaps you back, doesn't it? Anyway, so even if you did try to literally dive out of the way, it would be sort of redundant, I imagine.
I've always had a tendency to move around in any game. Like when I was trying Audica, I was moving around for no reason.
I mean, even if I'm playing like a horror game and I'm like seated, like when I play Outlast, I like duck, underneath my desk and stuff for no reason.
Oh, I don't know how you manage to play horror. Like, that is the one zone in VR that I cannot move into.
I cannot do it on VR. I will literally die, but chat really likes to watch me play things because, like, I'm a child and I scream so loud and, like, it's so bad. And they always ask me to do it, like, right before I have to cast something. So, like, I lose my voice because I'm screaming for, like, 4 hours straight.
Yeah, I don't want to play any VR horror games.
It's too close. It's too, yeah, I mean...
You're there.
It's just too close.
There are ghosts there in the world with you. They exist. They are real. You will die. That's what happens as soon as I put my headset on. And it's like... So I'm either really good at horror games because they're supposed to scare you and I get, like, really scared, or I'm, like, very bad at them because it takes me, like, 2 hours to go 2% through the story.
I just don't want to injure my space.
My heart.
I know I would.
What about, like, climbing games? Have you guys tried, like, climbing and things like that?
I played a little bit of the climb back when I first got my Rift. It was about a year ago. It's pretty fun, but I think at the same time, once I got into climbing with my friends, it doesn't really compare. Especially, like, knowing how to climb, it feels super awkward trying to play the climb. Because you can do all kinds of things that you have no business doing actually climbing.
Have you ever tried Climby, which is, like, very no business? Like, you, like, hurl yourself at walls and, like, throw yourself into the air. It's really fun, and it's, like, co-op. We did, like, a community day where we all played it.
I haven't played it, but I feel like if it's not trying to be hyper realistic, that's probably better. Like, you get that kind of arcadey feeling, like you're not trying to take it seriously. With the climb, I feel like the game is trying to be a serious climbing game, but it's got too many quirks with it that, like, if you're actually a climber or you're interested in that, it just doesn't feel right. But I think if it was more arcadey, where you can just, like, fly around, kind of like ragdoll physics stuff, that'd be actually a lot of fun. I
agree. Yeah, I think trying to find that, not necessarily that balance, it just needs to sort of move in one direction or the other, and most of the time I think it's quite enjoyable to be able to do things in VR that you're not able to do in real life. Like, the amount of times that I've sort of looked at a gun on the floor and sort of just wished that I could just point at it and have my Jedi mind powers just pick it up instead. I think that's the way that a lot of the shooters should be, for example. I imagine the same goes for climbing. Like, I don't know if you'd want to actually have to reach back and pretend that you're chalking your hands or something like that, sort of just ruin the fun a bit, I feel, personally.
Yeah, we did a community climby day, and Team Gravity was there, and I was there, and I am so bad at that game. But, like, if you've played, would you say it was comparable to, like, it kind of has the same feel or control as, like, one of the Echoes, and so he was saying that was why he was so good. But Grav is, like, a lord at it, and I am trash garbage. So I basically just, like, had to hold on to somebody and get carried several times through various levels. Sometimes I made it on my own, like 40% of the time, 30, something like that.
You guys ever play Elite Dangerous?
I have not. I've always been considering picking it up, but I just never follow through. I've always had too many unfinished games in my library.
Yeah, I haven't either. I mean, it looks really interesting. It looks like it's one of those games that could suck me in as well. I mean, I'm waiting for a sort of an MMO type VR game, a really nicely in-depth one. Like I enjoyed Orbis. At least I tried to really enjoy Orbis. I found the combat was hard for me to get involved in. But
So, I mean, have you played it since it's been completely rebuilt?
It's a new-
Way.
Yeah, I gave it another go.
Yeah.
Again, I'm not knocking it in any way. It was just my own personal preferences, I guess. Like I struggled with the combat, and that was just me.
I mean, it's very obviously a first dive into VR MMOs.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, I played a lot of Ardos as well. I didn't get to like the rating point or anything like that, but it's definitely something that I really, really want to happen in the VR world. Like I want an MMO. I think that would be amazing. What was the MOBA you guys were talking about? The VR MOBA.
Cradle of Sin, I believe, is what it's called. Again, I'm just learning from all this through Discord, and I think that's going to be the first VR MOBA, if I'm not mistaken. Just time will tell. Time will tell how they implement it and what the skill set's going to be like. It does look interesting, but as always, we're just going to have to wait and see. I think beta is coming soon, if I'm not mistaken. They just opened up the Discord to everybody and are offering the possibility for beta keys. So sign up, get on the Discord.
Join the Discord, sign up, get betas, compete.
Another game that I saw that talking about betas, Aerobots VR. It looks like basically like the spiritual successor to Skyfront. It kind of combines elements of Space Junkies and Skyfront. Has same thing, really nice graphics, interesting gameplay. It seems like it would feel more like Skyfront just based on the movement and the kind of gun styles, but has the Space Junkies kind of polish. But again, it's from another small studio, so I'm not sure if it'll take off, but it definitely has the potential, just as merit as a game, it looks like, to do well.
Yeah, I'm checking it out. I think it's like one of their only titles, the company, so maybe they're like a new VR company.
Yeah, it's like one of my biggest complaints with a lot of shooters in VR is, and this even happens in some of the Space Junkie stuff, just like you don't get a feeling like you have the gun in your hand, but when you shoot it, it just feels like you're shooting a little pea shooter, like, which is why I had a hard time getting behind Echo Combat. Like fighting someone in VR with guns, I feel like should be kind of visceral. It's the kind of the whole point of VR is to get you engaged. So if it feels really lackluster to fight someone, and the whole point of the game is gun combat, it seems kind of backwards. And I think that game does it well. It has kind of the Doom-esque over-the-top weapons, but then it also has more conventional stuff, and then some robot themed stuff because it's robot characters.
It looks good. I'm also watching the trailer bit right now.
So yeah, they're currently just raffling beta keys. So they're just having a very small beta, I believe, because they're a newer independent studio. But they're look like they're pretty serious about it. So that's the one I'd keep an eye on.
And then of the shooters, like between Onward and Contractors and Pavlov, which do you guys wish would pick up the most, like, tread? You know what I mean?
I think Onward's pretty much proven itself, but I'm hoping for Contractors. The gun feel, the pace, and everything for me is really quite spot on at the moment. I think the mechanics of the guns, that is. It deserves a place in the competitive scene at the moment. I mean, here's to hoping that ESL actually picks it up now, especially now that there's a spectator mode that you can cast it from, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, Axis agrees. He wants Contractors as well.
Yeah, I think Contractors really well done. I think its big lack was that it didn't have a spectator mode, which made it hard to be watchable as a team game. So yeah, and fast pace always helps. So I'll have to dig into that. But where I don't play a whole lot of the shooters, I got caught up in rhythm games and Space Junkies mostly. So Stumpy, my teammate, who was a competitive player for the Onward team, Danglers, he kind of dragged me into the fold of those recently. So I'm leaning more that direction.
And what do you like more about Contractors versus Onward? Is it just the pacing, the gun feel?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's mainly just the pacing, the way that you actually get into combat and out. I haven't played a ton of either, but I felt like Onward. I don't know if it's just the nature of the game or the way that people have adapted to playing, but it feels like a lot of waiting around, a lot of like overly tactical play, I guess, which is the same thing I said. Kind of made Final Assault lackluster for me. Is I don't like waiting. I like Space Junkies because when you're ready to go, you can go. And it's not like you're going to get punished for jumping into a situation where a bunch of people feel like they're camping.
Yeah, for me the same. It's just very much about what your flavor is, really. I mean, Onwards is a great game, and it's certainly proved itself, and it's a great thing to watch as well. But for me, the pacing of Contractors is much more appealing, and Onwards sort of covers the milsim side, and sort of Contractors is much more, the whole idea of basically respawns, but still being able to work with the feel and the mechanics of actual guns. The feel is nice, and the pacing's nice, and it just all comes together really well, I feel, to the specific game mode as well, where you sort of respawn and you constantly try and capture a point, and it adds to the different strategies as well that you might hold for that in comparison to a much more slower paced game like Onwards. Yeah.
And Axis is saying too, it like depends on region as well. Like NA is just much quicker, and EU is slower. And Onward was one of the games that I just didn't have as much fun watching at the Season 3 finals. In comparison, now their setup was cool. Like the equipment needed to play this game was neato, but I just felt like Space Junkies was just, like you guys are saying, much faster and much more satisfying for me personally to watch. So
yeah, I think Space Junkies has more potential for that, but it's actually kind of funny that you mention it, because everyone the entire season was complaining about how Space Junkies was like awful to watch, and I think part of that was that they used that weird version of the caster mode that they didn't really intend to be the primary one to use. There was kind of the same thing with EU and North America, having very different play styles. Like certain teams were super campy. They found out that you can sit in the spawn tunnel when you're ahead, and you can just burn time by not playing the game.
Turtle, yeah.
Yeah, or you can just run away. I think Axis at one point they won a game 1-0 because the other team was too scared to fight them. So it's just like weird stuff like that. Like there's not a true like objective in the game other than just fighting each other. So you get all kinds of weird mechanics around camping, hiding, just burning time. So hopefully in the future they're talking about, they tried to do some stuff with capture the flag, with like point capture mode, like domination. But a lot of that stuff gets hard when you're actually working in the 3D space as opposed to a two-dimensional map like Onward.
Yeah, I think that's another thing that just makes Space Junkies so special. When I first stepped in, I was like, oh my god, there's a whole other dimension or axis that I have to deal with here. I have to go up and down as well. Oh my god.
Yeah, so we talked with the developers because way back when there was a mechanic where rings scattered around the map and they would restore your boost. And one of the ideas that we came up with was capture the flag, where those are scattered around, but the flag carrier can't capture them. So it takes away the mechanic of characters inherently having more speed. So you basically have to protect the flag carrier from a bunch of other characters that are faster. And just on top of that, like capture the flag in VR would be great, especially the way those maps are built. Like there's natural strong points that you'd have to guard.
I agree. Yeah, that's cool. I'm really excited that there's at least the possibility that these are coming out.
So, yeah. So hopefully that they'll follow up with that. I mean, that's a huge improvement for the game if they can get that through. If they can get some of those smaller bugs worked out. I mean, 3v3 was a massive overhaul of the game. Just the fact that you can jump into a lobby and you can play completely different game modes depending on how many people you have, and that it's super flexible. With now you have bots. The game's certainly come a long way since we started playing a couple months ago.
Yeah, because it's actually a really new game. They're talking about these updates and the 3v3 and the bots all coming out, but this game actually released like March of this year, like the end of March. It was like right before the season 3 finals games were like announced, and then it got added. It's a Ubisoft title. So it's only been out for a couple of months, and there's already been a lot of updates to it. It was one of the titles that was at the season 3 finals. The devs are really, really responsive and really cool to talk to. They really care about the game. So I think it has a pretty good future. It's definitely something that if you guys are like looking for something to play that probably has a space in competitive for the foreseeable future, is a pretty safe bet.
Yeah, and even on top of that, it's especially notable because the player base right now is pretty small. There are certainly some players that have an advantage having played before, but I mean, the game's only been out a couple months. If you're looking for something to get in that's competitive, that has regular events, I mean, Manello and I are going to keep hosting events as long as people are willing to play. So I mean, it's not going anywhere, at least from a community standpoint. Sounds like the developers are sticking with it.
And it's on sale for a ridiculous price right now, so if you want to pick it up, now is definitely the time.
Yeah, and the skill entry to get in and find a teammate, like the game is absolutely more about teamwork than skill at the high levels. I mean, you can be the best player in the game, but you won't end up pulling through against a team versus 2 that's really coordinated. It's just the way the game's built. There's too many ways you can get flanked. It's really built to have high level of coordination.
And then the other game that is kind of pulling away as far as competitive is Final Assault. Final Assault is brand new as well. It just came out a couple of months ago. The first league of that is like in process right now, and it looks like they're planning on doing more and more events, so make sure you check them out as well. It's Phase Interactive. And it's
Phaser Lock, yeah.
Phaser Lock Interactive. And it's called Final Assault. I keep wanting to say Frontal Assault, and that's wrong. And that is like, and it's wrong on like a lot of levels, and I don't know what's wrong with me. And yeah, they're actually at the World Cyber Games right now. One of our very own Derval is competing, and he is undefeated right now, I believe. Jersey. I was looking at the brackets. I don't think he's lost a match. He's doing very well.
Yeah, but similarly to Space Junkies, I mean, it's pretty notable just in the sense that the game basically released and immediately got picked up for a major international tournament. It got a VRML league. So, I mean, it had promise right off the bat. It's kind of in the same boat as Space Junkies. It doesn't look like they're stopping development on anytime soon. They're really receptive to the community, especially amongst the players they call the Special Forces group that have gotten pretty good. They actively take feedback and run tweaks on the game.
We have Bion in the chat talking about Dee's voice as well. Actually met Bion at TwitchCon last year. He was in my TwitchCon house last year. It's a very small world. Are you going to TwitchCon this year, right, Bion? I haven't looked. I haven't gotten a house. I have it down to a couple options. And Faye too. Hi.
Hello, Faye.
It sounds like how a fluffy cat feels. It's a good description.
It's crazy how you keep running into people in VR. As long as people that are competitive, that are involved in communities, like tend to float around. Like Dee and I said earlier, we ran into each other in Archangel, and I mean, 6 months later, saw him playing Beat Saber. We chatted, and then again, we got into the Space Junkies tournament. Just happened to run into each other at the World Finals. Such a small world in VR, especially among people that are competitive players across different genres.
I'm loving it as it is. I mean, just meeting all you guys and having a family going and all that. It's been really awesome. I can imagine though that as it gets bigger and the competition gets heavier, it's going to get exciting for other reasons. But I guess the family will get bigger too. But
have that leg up on VR knowledge and just familiarity with the systems. I think that's a big thing to just like the entry level requirement for VR competitive, even more so than cost or accessibility, is just getting acquainted with basically having yourself be the controller for your games. is something that a lot of people, I think, take for granted.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's definitely the time to do it. And like I am so excited about it growing and the competition getting more and more like involved and the communities kind of intersecting with one another. I think that that's really, really cool. I think that if you have a VR headset, you know, like using it to try out all sorts of games and seeing, you know, what comes out, because you can return it if you don't play them, you know, try them out, see if you like them, if it's something that thank you so much. Faye is, I don't know if I'm allowed to dox you, is Proper's waifu.
Yeah.
I got to meet her at the VR World Finals as well. She's a sweetie.
High five.
We all went to a pub together, Pesky and me and Axis and Manello and Faye. Proper, we all went out for drinks. It was Manella's birthday. Yeah, he was turning 21 years old. And we drank a lot of Jaeger bombs. It was a wonderful evening.
Many Jaeger bombs.
£10 for 5 Jaeger bombs.
It was ridiculous.
It's almost as good as the Space Junkies deal, but God, it's difficult to resist. 5 Jaeger bombs for £10.
And the VR Respawn guys were with us too. Stu and his partner were both there, and they were like competing the next day against Danglers. They were both still in the competition, and they were out with us drinking and dancing.
I think the only one of us that was competing that wasn't there was Stumpy. And we ended up meeting up with him later.
Yeah, he was like the only one. And then that night also my phone died and I was at a different hotel from the players. So I was like, I need somebody to take me home. And Pesky was like, I'll walk you, because I still have a GPS. And we ended up going out and like getting dinner and just talking about Beat Saber for like 2 hours in the middle of Leicester, UK. It was crazy. It was such a cool time.
Snack adventure.
Mm-hmm.
This has to happen again.
I know.
Absolutely.
Come and meet you again.
My goal is TwitchCon EU. And if I can make that happen, then we definitely have to hang out and do some stuff. Maybe I can go to the season finals next year. You guys all have to qualify again, though. That's the rules.
It's gonna get tougher and tougher, as expected.
But that's good, right? Like, everybody wants the
course.
competition.
Yeah.
I mean, it just means we have a leg up when the bigger prize money's rolling, right?
That's right.
Exactly. That's perfect perspective.
I think that was, chat didn't have very many questions today, but we've been talking for about 2 hours. This always happens. So I'll start asking just a couple of closing kind of questions. If you guys had to name like one of your like shining moments with VR or gaming or anything like that, like what it all boils down to for you, what would that be for each of you?
Probably playing against Axis and Manello in the VR League finals. At the time we went in, they were the #1 ranked team in the world. I mean, they were the favorites of the devs to win the whole thing. And not necessarily beating them, but just playing them in general and having that experience on stage for the first time was just kind of perspective changing.
Yeah, absolutely. For me, it's the same events. I mean, the ESL tournaments. I mean, being part of that for the first time is just indescribable. I mean, it's just...
What's Bama? Bayan, are you close to Atlanta? Bayan is asking if you're going to Bama. Oh, Alabama. Isn't Alabama close to Atlanta in Georgia? Bayan, I'm going to be in Atlanta, Georgia for Dragon Con. I have a house. It's only $20 a night to stay in the house. If you are interested, I'll be there with Pesky. Yeah, actually being on stage, like playing in front of people, was that cool?
Yeah, that was incredible. I mean, I always like to go back and roast Archangel for their little tournament because it was kind of hilarious going back and thinking of that. But just coming from that perspective, just like this is the state of VR esports right now. Like that's what people make you think based on what you hear a lot of the time is the big event is some little LAN thing where two teams go and play against each other across a table in a ballroom. Like you get that perspective, like, okay, this is like reasonably something I can imagine being, you know, this is the peak of VR esports. Then you go to something like the ESL championships, and there's this whole production, you're getting interviewed, you got custom jerseys, like they're running the computers for you after you're used, just sitting in your home playing on this old scuffed PC build that can barely stream.
Yeah, that was definitely amazing for me. Sorry, I think I'm not pushing my push to talk properly. So sorry if I'm starting to sound like I'm cutting in and out. But
Nope, you're good.
yeah, I mean, the grandest moment for me, VR, was definitely ESL and just like hanging out with the big boys and stuff. And just, yeah, exactly. Being interviewed, and then they're asking you to sort of like do these poses and stuff like that. And it's just crazy. Just cray.
Yeah, I actually got to go
So-
back there. They're talking about Media Day, which was the day before the actual tournament, and that's where they get interviewed. They get all that footage that you guys saw during the tournament where they're looking very seriously, unless they were tutorial bot. They're looking very seriously like into the camera and things like that. Yeah, and they're crossing their arms and looking
super uncomfortable.
yeah, and they have to do it over and over. I actually got to go back and record a bunch of that for our team and just kind of see the behind the scenes. But it was so much production that went into this. It was just like, I think Media Day was like 12 hours itself. It was over 12 hours because it started at like 9 and it went till past 10, didn't it?
Yeah, it was the entire day for sure. Those people were in there taking photos, doing interviews, shuttling people around. It was crazy.
It was a practice day as well, so the practice stations were up, and people were having their practice sessions that day. It was nuts. It was so much. And then the casters all had their practice day as well, so they had to go up and make sure the cameras and everything, their mics were working. It was very cool. And then one question that I kind of like to ask, and I usually do it with mappers, I say, like, if you're new to mapping, do you have any advice for people that are new to mapping? But if you're new to VR or competitive VR esports, and you had to give them, one piece of advice, one like golden rule, what would you want to pass on to somebody that's just getting started? They just bought their index and it's on the way.
I'd say try a lot of games, get outside of your comfort zone. VR gives you a very different perspective on what you can do, and I think you don't realize a lot of different mechanics, like just fundamental to VR, until you see them in a game, that something you never would have played, whether that's Beat Saber or a shooter like Onward, something like Space Junkies. They all have different takes on mechanics that would conventionally be very similar on a flat screen game, but are incredibly different if you play it in VR.
Absolutely, yeah. I think the term that springs to mind is flexibility, and just as Pesky said, just trying stuff out. I think one of the most sort of common inhibitors, for want of a better word, that I can think of is basically people really not liking the experience because they're not used to something. But I mean, I guess everything starts that way, really. Like if you're loving the visuals of VR and struggling with the controls will come with time. You know what I mean? It's just like anything else. Just like the first time you played a flat screen game, really. Just enjoy it. Don't get too frustrated about things that I suppose I consider to be little things.
I think that's really good advice. I think the play a lot of games is also really, really important. A lot of people they wait until a game is really, really popular and then they kind of jump in. And I think that's kind of a backwards way to do it. You really want to get into the games when they first come out. You really want to start kind of on the ground floor, seeing if you like something, seeing what genre you like, and then just kind of trying everything from that genre. What's funny is I got VR for horror because I used to be a really big horror gamer. Like I played all the Silent Hills, I played all the Resident Evils. Like you would not believe that watching me play a horror game. But so when VR first came out, I was like, man, I am so excited to play horror games, but I'm like, I physically can't, right? I will actually die. And I ended up getting really, really into shooters, and then Beat Saber kind of came along and just completely changed everything. And now I mainly play, rhythm games and stuff. But yeah, trying different stuff. I talked over you.
I have no idea how people do VR horror games. Like as you said, the presence of whatever is standing right in front of you trying to kill you is just too much. Too much. Especially all the ghostly stuff, all that haunting stuff, like a staircase, like with a dark attic or some crap.
We had
Oh my god.
Paranormal Activity set up at the TwitchCon house, and we like were taking turns playing it. So like Bion played it, and then I played it. But like how long did I last? I think I lasted like 3 minutes, and then I saw my own hand in my peripheral vision, and I got scared of my own hand, and then I like crawled into a ball, and I like wouldn't move. And I was like, well, that's it. And like I was on cam and everything, like it was live on stream.
Sounds like you did a lot better than I would.
Dude, it was awful. And then somebody else just like Tetsu was there. Tetsu just played the game, like was totally fine. Nothing scared that man. It was crazy to watch, but like I can't. And I also have phantom touch when I play VR, so like when I'm playing VRC and things like that, if somebody touches me and I can see them touching me, I feel them touching me, even if they're only touching my...
Yeah, I have that too.
Yeah, and so I thought it would get better with time, but that actually has not gotten better for me.
My God.
With
It's
time.
so
Glad
weird.
I don't experience that.
That's got to be terrifying for anything horror related.
Rec Room Paintball. What did everybody play first in VR? My first VR game was
Beat
probably like
Saber.
Super Hot. I think it was like Super Hot for me.
I think it was either Beat Saber or Rec Room Laser Tag. I played a lot of Rec Room Laser Tag early on.
It might have been Raw Data for me as well. It was one of the two.
I can't remember what I played with. I didn't even have, when I first got into VR, I didn't have touch controllers. So I was playing stuff like Blaze Rush. It was that racing game on Oculus. The very first touch controller game I think I played was, God, what was it called? Dead and Buried. That was an amazingly fun game. Sort of like a cowboy shootout thing where you're basically ducking and diving behind a cover and you're playing against people as PvP. It was one of the best times I've had actually in VR. I don't know where that title went. Dead and Buried. That was a good one.
They have a Dead and Buried 2 now. It's kind of an unfinished state, unfortunately, so hopefully that comes around. They added new guns, some new mechanics, but it's very much like tech demo state right now.
Cool. We'll definitely be checking that out. Yeah.
Bion said he put a can in a pot and it rattled, and that's what scared me. So I'm gonna blame Bion for my failures. Man, that was a good time. That was like my first like Twitch related like thing that I did was that TwitchCon.
Yeah.
That's pretty nuts. So this TwitchCon I will be there as well. DragonCon is coming up. We're just gonna do a quick recap of the 2 hours. I don't know. I was gonna play multiplayer, but I don't know if I want to play multiplayer. If we want to raid somebody, what do you guys want to do? I'll let chat decide. So this weekend, Totally Mysterious could be having a tournament, and I could be casting said tournament. I am unsure. I do not have the information. It's been a little bit sketch, so that should be starting tomorrow. You can tune into that. It is a Beat Saber tournament. There's also a Contractors and Space Junkies event going on this weekend. Proper will be doing the Contractors event. Manello and Pesky will be hosting the Space Junkies event. So definitely check out both of those games. Join those Discords if you're interested in getting more into competing. And then next weekend, on Friday, we will be talking to Amanatsu and some other members of the Cube Community staff. We'll be talking about Cube Community, their YouTube, what it's like editing those videos, the idea to just create Cube Community. As well as talking about their tournament, which starts the day after. It starts next Saturday on the 27th and 28th. Klouder and I will both be casting that, so make sure that you tune in to that. And then we've got other stuff planned after that, but I won't tell you about it because it's a lot of stuff.
That can be said next weekend.
Yeah, exactly. And it's been about 2 hours, so I'll let you guys say goodbye to the chat. Thank you so much for hanging out with me and talking with me about Beat Saber and competing and World Finals. I hope you guys had fun.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's a great time.
Did you guys want to say?
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me. I mean, it's been such an honor, and it's been a lot of fun. It's been really nice just chilling and hanging out and just...
Yeah, it's been good chatting with you guys again. Looking forward to whatever shenanigans come up at DragonCon.
Hey, you guys did great. I'm excited. We are going to be doing a lot of stuff coming up, so it is a perfect time to talk about stuff. Yeah, I'll listen to Proper D as well. Anytime he wants to talk. So what I'll do is... What do you guys want to do? Do you guys want me to raid somebody? Maybe I'll raid. and then just play some Final Fantasy. So I will mute and deafen the Discord, and I'll be right back to talk to you guys. Thank you so much. We will see you guys later. And then I'm going to say bye to the stream.
You're awesome.
You're awesome. Alright, I'll be right back. So now they can't hear me, so I will go find somebody. I think we should just go raid somebody and I'll play a little bit by myself, maybe. Tomorrow is Saturday. I will be here tomorrow. Let's do multiplayer tomorrow. I'll set up my full body tracking. We'll do some multiplayer. Beat Saber, maybe we'll play some Space Junkies or something. A bunch of people got Space Junkies to do, so I'll give you guys a day to like install that. Thanks for hanging out with me and talking with me and Pesky and Proper and Klouder about competitive esports and Beat Saber and competing in VR. I think it's a really important topic because I think that the more people that get involved and the more like we cross over the communities, the more it's going to grow. And I think it's really, it's such an awesome thing to talk about. And so we're going to be doing that for the next couple of weeks with the upcoming BloqTalks. So yeah, we had a bunch of gift subs. Thank you so much to my secret admirer for those. Thanks to my Team Gravity teammates for hanging out. Axis and Manila both hanging out and talking to us about competing. I miss you guys. Axis with a gift sub as well. Thank you so much. Who do we want to go say hi to? Logan is streaming. Do you want to raid Logan? Got to meet Logan at Anime Expo. He's a pretty cool dude. I think he's a good pick. So yeah, I'll see you guys tomorrow. I didn't get to meet Calvin. I'm trying to do like AX fam for a little while. Somebody just laying on Logan's bed. I don't know who that is, but we're gonna go say hi. The meme king. Yeah, his overlay is actually really nice right now. Alright, cool. So we're gonna go say hi to Logan. He is awesome. He's really good at this game. He is hanging out with somebody, but I don't know who that is. So we're gonna go say hi to both of them. They're in a random room. Thanks, Faye, for hanging out with us. And I will see you guys tomorrow. Yes, yes. Thanks for hanging out. Here we go.